The first sign that our peaceful weekend at the lake was about to turn into something out of a bad dream came while Ellen was still brushing her teeth. I was in the kitchen, half asleep, pouring coffee when her phone buzzed with an urgent dispatch tone. She switched it to speaker, foam still at the corners of her mouth. "Ma'am, we received a 911 report that a woman named Ellen Harper is unlawfully occupying a residence at Pine Ridge Lake Estates. The complainant is requesting immediate removal." Ellen slowly turned toward me, eyes wide with a mix of disbelief and that quiet amusement she gets when something ridiculous happens. "Honey," she said, spitting into the sink, "apparently I'm illegally living in our own house." That's when I knew. Only one person in this entire community was unhinged enough to call 911 over something like this. Margaret Voss, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, clipboard always in hand, rules always on her lips. What Margaret didn't know, what no one in Pine Ridge could have guessed, was that she had just tried to have removed the woman who ran the entire state police force. If you've ever dealt with an overzealous HOA or a neighbor who thinks they own the neighborhood, you know how these stories start small and snowball. But this one didn't just snowball. It became an avalanche. An ending? Well, let's just say justice has a way of showing up when you least expect it, wearing a badge and carrying the full weight of the law. We'd bought the cabin the previous spring, right after Ellen's promotion to director of the state police. She needed the break more than anyone realized. Running a statewide force means carrying stress that never really lets go. Long nights, endless briefings, decisions that affect thousands of lives. She never complained, but I saw it in the way she stared at her uniform some mornings, like it had grown heavier overnight. So when the paperwork cleared, we loaded the truck with groceries, fishing rods, and the promise of quiet. Pine Ridge Lake Estates was supposed to be our escape. Tall pines, cool water, a private dock just big enough for 2 chairs, and no emails, no calls, no emergencies. We drove up humming old country tunes, ready to reset. We barely got the groceries inside before trouble arrived. Ellen was unloading bags, humming something she had stuck in her head all week when gravel crunched in the driveway. A white SUV pulled in like it owned the place. Out stepped a woman whose perfume hit us before her voice did. Thick, floral, overpowering. Oversized sunglasses, a pastel cardigan that screamed HOA committee budget, and a clipboard held like a weapon. Margaret didn't wave. She didn't smile. She marched straight past us and started walking the perimeter of our cabin, scribbling notes as if she'd already decided everything was wrong. Ellen tried the friendly approach. "Hi there. Can we help you?" Margaret didn't look up. "We've had reports of unauthorized activity on this parcel. I need to confirm your status. Are you renters?" Ellen set down a bag of paper towels and wiped her hands on her jeans. "No, we own it." Margaret finally glanced up, squinting like she'd caught a whiff of something suspicious. "I don't recognize you." I stepped beside Ellen. "I'm Tom. This is my wife, Ellen. We closed last spring." Margaret's eyebrows climbed. "I'm the HOA president," she announced, as if we should bow. "We require formal occupancy notices submitted through the community portal. Did you file one?" The portal was a relic, some ancient WordPress site that crashed if you looked at it wrong. But to Margaret, it was mission control. Ellen smiled politely. "We weren't told that was required for owners." Margaret clicked her pen. "Regardless, your name isn't on the ownership record." That was the moment it clicked. I'd bought the cabin under my LLC for tax reasons. Cleaner paperwork, my name only on the title. Not because Ellen was an equal partner in every way that mattered. Just bureaucracy. To Margaret, though, it was ammunition. Her lips curled. She handed over a slip printed in Comic Sans. "This is a warning. Vacate until residency is verified." Ellen took one look and handed it back. "No thanks. I don't take orders from you." Margaret looked genuinely shocked that the world hadn't stopped turning. From that second, war was declared. The next morning, our yard violated the natural debris limit. 3 pine cones had fallen overnight. Then a note about excessive porch occupancy. Ellen drinking coffee on the swing. She even invented the term porch occupancy. I wish I were joking. The masterpiece came 2 days later. A formal complaint accusing Ellen of unauthorized cohabitation, taped to our mailbox with what looked like a lipstick seal. Ellen read it deadpan. To whom it may concern. The unidentified female must depart within 48 hours or face removal via local enforcement. I laughed. Ellen didn't. She won't stop, she said quietly. She'll push until she feels powerful. She was right. Margaret wasn't the type to reflect. She was the type to double down until something burned. By the morning of the 911 call, we were more amused than shocked. Annoyed, sure. Surprised? Not even close. When the patrol cars rolled up, blue lights flickering through the pines, I watched from the kitchen window. 2 officers stepped out slowly. One reading from a notepad he clearly didn't trust, the other glancing around like he'd rather be anywhere else. Ellen opened the door before they knocked. Calm, measured, the kind of calm that unnerves people more than shouting. Good morning, officers. I understand you're here to remove me from my own cabin. The younger one blinked. Ma'am, we got a 911 report of trespass in progress. Complainant named you specifically. Ellen raised an eyebrow. And here I am in pajamas, making breakfast. They asked to come in. She stepped aside like she was hosting brunch. Inside, nothing looked criminal. Fishing rods by the door, half-sliced apple on the counter. The older officer scanned the room, then asked for proof of affiliation with the owner. Ellen picked up her phone. Marriage certificate, LLC docs listing her as co-executive. Photo of me unlocking the cabin the day we bought it. The younger officer squinted at the screen. Ma'am, Ellen Harper. He swallowed. As in Director Harper, Ellen nodded politely. Both officers straightened like they'd been shocked. The older one removed his hat. The younger looked ready to melt into the floorboards. Director, ma'am, he stammered. We weren't informed. Ellen held up a hand. Relax. You're doing your job. But I want something on record. She tapped the remote, pulling up security footage on the TV. Granny clips, Margaret creeping around days earlier, photographing our recycling, measuring firewood with a tape, stepping onto the porch uninvited. The older officer sighed. That's trespassing. And if she called 911 claiming you were an intruder, that's misuse of emergency services. Ellen crossed her arms. Exactly what she did. They looked at each other, realizing they'd been dragged into HOA nonsense, wrapped in legal trouble. The older one asked if she wanted to file charges. Not yet, Ellen said. But log every call involving this address from now on. They left apologizing multiple times. The younger even offered extra patrols. Ellen declined. I don't need protection. I need documentation. After they drove off, I leaned against the door. That went better than expected. Ellen gave a small, humorless smile. Margaret thinks this is about her versus some woman who doesn't belong. She doesn't realize she's on a collision course with the law itself. That evening, we sat on the porch watching the lake turn soft blue. Everything looked peaceful. Then Margaret's SUV crawled past, slow, watching. She's gauging if the call rattled me, Ellen murmured. Did it? No, but it told me she's escalating, and she won't stop until something burns. I felt a chill. Not dread exactly. More like realizing someone had already seen 10 moves ahead. Because this wasn't petty neighborhood drama anymore. Margaret had a clipboard. Ellen had the full force of state law enforcement behind her. It was never going to be a fair fight. The morning after the 911 call, Margaret drove by again, slower, like she was building a case in her head. By 9 a.m., an email hit the HOA board. Unauthorized occupant remains. Urgent action required. Attached, a blurry photo of Ellen jogging, red arrow, word loitering in Comic Sans. By noon, another email from the treasurer. Special session that afternoon to review violations. Ellen attended alone. From the truck, I heard Margaret's voice leak through the walls. She refuses to comply. She's unverified. We cannot allow instability. Then Ellen's voice, calm and cutting. I am married to the owner. I am co-executive on the LLC, and I am Director Ellen Harper of the State Police. Silence. Terrified silence. The board postponed everything. They were scared of Margaret, too scared to stop her. They gave her more rope. That evening, our insurance company called. Anonymous report of illegal rental. Premiums could spike. The next day, county zoning demanded a septic inspection over a noise complaint tied to utility misuse. Margaret wasn't throwing pebbles. She was throwing bricks. Then she crossed the line. We came home from dinner in town one night. The front door was open, just a crack. Intentional. Inside, nothing stolen. But everything wrong. Framed photo of us face down. Drawer with Ellen's off-duty badge pulled open. Coat draped wrong. It wasn't burglary. It was a message. Ellen activated an incident report. Code read, intrusion. Civil escalation suspected. The next morning, a drone hovered outside our upstairs window, red light blinking. Margaret was baiting us, hoping for an overreaction she could film and use. Ellen forwarded footage to oversight boards, then called formal investigation into unauthorized access and harassment by HOA member using restricted keys. She had proof. Margaret had used a master key HOA was supposed to safeguard. Time for a trap. The next day, Margaret marched up with a young lawyer, clutching a cease and desist. Tell her, Margaret ordered. The lawyer cleared his throat. Ma'am, we demand you cease unauthorized presence. Ellen raised a hand. Let me stop you. I've already filed complaints. Criminal trespass, unlawful surveillance, misuse of emergency keys. She nodded at the drone controller in his hand. Second, this property is outside HOA enforcement due to LLC structure. Verified with county records this morning. The lawyer paled. And finally, Ellen stepped forward. I am Director Ellen Harper, head of state police. Unless you have a court order signed by a judge, that's just paper with ambition. Margaret doubled down. Your title doesn't matter. You're a threat to community order. Ellen turned. Authority comes from law, Margaret, not clipboards. She held out her palm. The drone controller. Margaret hesitated, then handed it over, trembling. Ellen powered it down. Unauthorized surveillance device neutralized. Margaret dragged the lawyer away, muttering about protocols. That evening, a judge Ellen knew called. Emergency injunction request naming Ellen as unstable non-registered individual. Absurd, self-filed by Margaret. Rejected immediately. But Margaret was going nuclear. The next morning, 2 dark SUVs arrived, State Ethics and Law Review Division. Formal inquiry into leadership abuse, false filings, misuse of emergency protocols. The HOA board panicked. Emails flooded in, apologies, questions, please. Margaret's empire was crumbling. She got suspended. Board announced review without her. But people like Margaret don't quit. They reload. Packages started arriving. Bird feeder with note, you might have on the board, but I'm everywhere. Then gloves, hose nozzle, seeds, all unsettling. Then the worst, notebook with fabricated accusations against our neighbor Vince. Embezzlement claims sent to his clients. Vince showed up shaking. Why me? Because you exist near us, Ellen said. She reported it to cybercrimes. That night, Ellen called a gathering at the old boat dock. No titles, no agenda, just neighbors. She laid out everything calmly. False complaints, break-in, drone, forged accusations. It's not enough to remove her, she said. We replace power with protection. People who look out for each other, not police each other. The community listened. A petition circulated. Dismantle old structure, rebuild with oversight, term limits, ethics committee. 70 signatures in a day. Vote passed landslide. Old board resigned. New charter drafted. Ellen declined a chair. I'm here to prevent, not lead. Peace returned. Neighbors waved. Kids played. Vince baked bread again. Ellen opened a new case. Found Margaret registering a tiny new HOA nearby under Cassandra Voss, middle name rearranged. She was trying to start over. We drove to the new development. Margaret stood in the cul-de-sac, clipboard gleaming, ordering contractors. She saw us. Froze. Then pretended we weren't there. Back home, Ellen filed for audit under fraud protocols, linking to Pine Ridge misconduct. The state flagged her. Application frozen. Leadership eligibility suspended indefinitely. Then permanently barred statewide from any governance role. A final anonymous letter arrived. Court denial. Door closed forever. That night on the dock, Ellen leaned against me. The lake reflected stars. No tension, just quiet. She thought she was fighting rules, Ellen said. We sat in real peace, the kind earned through truth and law. If you've ever faced an HOA nightmare, a bully with a title, or watched power corrupt someone close to home, share your story in the comments. What do you think about how far people will go when they feel entitled? Is there ever a point where standing up crosses into something darker? Or is quiet resistance the only real answer to injustice? I'd love to hear your take, your experiences, your opinions, even if we disagree. Let's talk about it.